All right, friends, this is day 6 of our online Bible study and our reading plan looking at the book of James. And today we are going to be talking about one of the things that James is the most famous for, a real bold statement that he makes, one that is inspiring to us, also convicting, and one that for a lot of people can cause some confusion when he says, look, faith without works is dead. Okay, here's something we have to keep in mind. There's a culture gap. You go to a foreign country, you don't expect them to speak the language that you speak. You don't expect them to have the customs that you grew up with. When we read the scriptures, we have to remember that these were written a long, long time ago in different languages, and there is a gap between the things that we assume and the things that people would have seen and known and experienced in the time. One of those big gaps is obviously a language gap. And I think that being mindful of that language gap is one of the ways that we can understand more fully what it is that James is talking about when he says faith without works is dead. So we're going to look at the places that he says that, two of the places that he says that, and seek to make a little bit of sense about this. And then I'm going to leave you with some reflections around that. One of the reasons that this is difficult to understand is that it seems to contradict what the Apostle Paul says. When Paul says, look, here's the thing, he makes this point over and over again in different ways in Galatians and Romans. Look, it's not about what you do, it's about what God has done for you. And that is just central to what we believe as Christians. That our salvation comes not by the things that we do, but by what God has done for us. And that all that is needful from us is to believe, to have faith, to trust in Jesus. When Paul is talking about that, he's talking about a certain kind of work. He's saying, look, the work of keeping the law of what we now call the Old Testament, that adhering to that is not what brings salvation. That it's belief, again, in the work that God is doing, is belief specifically in Jesus that brings that salvation. And Paul just hammers that home over and over and over again. So how does that congrue with what James says here? James says, what good is it, my brothers or my brothers and sisters, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can that faith save him? Then give some examples. And then in verse 17 he says, so also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. So why is it that Paul is emphasizing it's not about works, it's about faith or belief? And why is it that James is saying, look, if you don't have that work, you don't really have faith? How does that work together? Keep this in mind. Paul is talking about how you don't work in order to receive salvation. James is talking about salvation coming first, faith in Jesus coming first, and what is the natural outgrowth of that. James would also say that the way that we get into this right relationship with God through Jesus is not by working, it's by believing. And he's also saying, and then after that, a natural outgrowth of belief in Jesus will be our lives being transformed and work coming out of that. Paul is emphasizing, when he's talking about works, what comes before salvation. James is talking about what comes after salvation. And James is saying, look, here's the thing. If we really believe in Jesus, if we have faith in him, if we trust him, like that real authentic faith, the kind of faith that saves, that kind of faith, a natural outgrowth of that is good works. It is not that we achieve our salvation by working. It is not that. Our salvation comes exclusively through the work that Jesus did on the cross and in the resurrection and our belief in him. But a natural outgrowth of that life with Jesus, that life where the Holy Spirit is inside of us and moving it in us. Good works. That word faith there, we talked about this with the young adults last night. That word faith there is the Greek word pistis, which means to have faith. It means to trust. It means to believe. It means like to build your life around something. Here for me, I think what I'm left reflecting on is, are there areas of my life, my faith, where I believe things with my mind, but that belief in my mind doesn't lead to action with my hands or movement of my feet? It doesn't change the words that come out of my mouth. And if there's a lack of congruence between what I believe in my mind and what I believe with my life, like the outgrowth of that, then I have to ask myself, do I really believe this stuff? If it's just up here, then it's dead. A natural outgrowth of really believing this, trusting in Jesus with everything that we've got, is that we become more and more inclined to love. It does not mean that we are perfect, but it means that we are growing in our love. What does Jesus say? Of God and of other people. So that's what I'm left reflecting on. I hope that you reflect on that too. How is it that there's a breakdown between what you believe with your mind and what you believe with your actions? And I think James is pushing us towards that. Real belief in Jesus, real faith, a natural outpouring of that, growth of that is good work. All right, we're going to continue this tomorrow. I'm actually going to be with you again tomorrow. So God bless you, friends. Do a little bit of reflection today. Do your reading for tomorrow, and I'll see you then.